You know what stock I'm investing in? The Brian Baldinger.
They're working out every morning, a bunch of guys throwing the ball around. So, I'm still kind of plugged in here. But this is a good time. Kind of take some time off, freshen up, get ready for what's going to start here in about 5 more weeks.
Baldy, did you ever get in on those workouts with the guys? You show them what's up?
They're animals, man. Past all that. I don't need to be injuring myself right now.
That's my excuse too. I don't want to hurt those guys, so I stay away. So Baldy, we were talking about at the start of the show how Alvin Kamara is not happy with his situation down in New Orleans with where the Broncos are at, and obviously the Sean Payton connection. Would it make sense in your mind for the Broncos to pursue or look into reuniting Sean and Alvin here in Denver?
Well, I think you can have the conversation, but if he's going to be 29 here. I think he's going to be 29. He's had a phenomenal career, especially. But, just the statistics. Now, he's had some injuries, but, these running backs, they don't stay great forever. They decline pretty rapidly. He looks like a declining player to me. If you brought Kamara in here, is he a rep stealer of Audric Estime, from Notre Dame? Yeah. Is he a rep stealer from Jaleel? I don't know what Javonte is right now, if he's fully healthy. Can he have a bounce-back season? He wasn't very good last year, but he was, a great rookie season. Like, you bring a guy like that in, he's a name. Everybody knows him, so you get excited. But if you really study him, everything has sort of been in decline here the last couple of seasons.
When it comes to running backs, I think a lot of people just say if you're an older running back, team should not pay you. It's just a bad decision. When you see Alvin Kamara as a 28-year-old, is it just so simple that when you see a 28-year-old about to be 29, you just shouldn't give that running back a 8-figure contract per year regardless of how he's playing?
Well, he came in the same draft as Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey just got, the contract, but he's coming off one of the best seasons we've seen from any running back, what we just saw. There was that class of running backs, Dalvin and Aaron Jones. That was an elite class. Fournette, and of course, Sean Payton got Kamara, I think, in the 3rd round that year out of Tennessee. Just one guy right now that's at the top of that class. Aaron Jones is still a very good player, but there's one guy at the top of that class, and it's McCaffrey. But he has gone through his injuries. He's come out of it, and he's in the perfect system. So sometimes, look, the offense line has not been very good in New Orleans. No secret. Ryan Ramczyk's been hurt. Left tackle was a disaster last year. Trevor Penning hasn't worked out. And so you could say, okay, well, he's a product of the offense line, and maybe he is. But there was a time when you put the ball in space with Alvin Kamara. There wasn't anybody he was either going to make miss, or his balance was – his balance was like, a cat on a marble table. You couldn't get him off his feet. So, I don't know that that's the case right now.
Yeah, Baldy, we talk about Alvin Kamara, then also the timeline of when you want to go get a big-name guy or a household name or somebody that can really help you get over the hump. I personally don't feel like the Broncos are there yet. I feel like we have a couple years before it's time to go get that guy that can take us to the Super Bowl after we've made, a playoff appearance or two. How far out do you think the Broncos are from really being able to say, okay, now we're in a position to win. Let's go get somebody to help us do that and really make a push to try and win it all?
Well, I think they have to get the quarterback situation established. Now, if it's Bo Nix, okay, it's Bo Nix. I don't know that. I don't know if anybody knows it yet. But I think they need to get the quarterback situation figured out this season. And then I think they need playmakers. I think they need more playmakers than they have right now. If you look at, obviously everybody's looking up at Kansas City. We know who all their guys are. And, they've had continuity at the quarterback position. The offense line is entrenched, especially the interior 3. They have their star players that they pay. I don't think Denver is, I don't think they're close to that right now. I know they beat them last year. They got 5 takeaways to beat the Kansas City Chiefs and finally stop, the Mahomes domination. But I feel like if they're established quarterback away and maybe 2 or 3 playmakers, big playmakers on both sides of the ball away right now.
Baldy, you talk about how the Broncos need to figure out their quarterback situation, and going into camp, we don't know if it's going to be Bo Nix, Jarrett Stidham. That competition is still in the air, but we've heard from Peyton Manning and Tom Brady take two completely different approaches to what young quarterbacks should do. Peyton Manning says young quarterbacks should play right away. Experience is the best thing to help these guys develop. And then Tom says, well, no. I sat behind Drew Bledsoe, and that was so beneficial. I think young quarterbacks should sit. When it comes to this debate of sit or start, where are you on this?
Well, I mean, both those guys you speak about, it's just personal experience. I mean, Peyton Manning led the league in interceptions his rookie season, 1998, and then he rebounded and had him in the playoffs the next year and learned from his mistakes. And Brady sat behind Drew, and when he got his chance, nobody ever looked back on it. So, I mean, that's personal experience. But everybody's different. Troy Aikman was 1-15 his rookie season, and, you know, he took his lumps. He got hit a bunch, got hurt a bunch, and he got toughened because of it. You know, David Carr was sacked 70-something times his rookie season. He said he never recovered.
Yeah.
So it really depends. It really depends. It's player to player. Every circumstance is different. You know, Zach Wilson played a lot, you know, right away. I don't think I don't know what he has, what he doesn't have. I mean, he's been through nothing but turmoil so far, and he's played behind terrible offensive lines. So every guy is just different right now. I want to see guys play, but I see the benefit of what Jordan Love was able to do in Green Bay and how he got his chance last year and really flourished with it. I just think it's an individual thing right now, player to player.
Changing gears a little bit, the defensive line for the Broncos, I think, has turned into one of the deeper groups on the team. When you look at DJ Jones and Zach Allen and John Franklin Myers and Malcolm Roach, even like Angelo Blackson has looked incredible during minicamp. When you see that group, because you have more of a perspective of what's going on around the league, is that a group that we should be excited about in Denver, or is it just kind of like finally living up to what other teams generally have?
No, it's a great observation, honestly, because it's the trend in this league right now. I mean, you just look around what teams are doing. They're putting the resources in their defense line. The 49ers have been doing it. The Jets have been doing it. The Eagles have been doing it. Kansas City does it. You've got to be 8 deep. It's a 17-game season. You know, maybe Max Crosby can play 95, 98% of the plays. Most can't, especially if you want any sort of a postseason run. And so you better be 8 deep, and you better not have a drop-off when you're rotating Baron Browning and Jared Cooper and, you know, and Nick out there. And then inside, you just mentioned, you know, I mean, Malcolm Roach is a very, very good player. Zach Allen has been a good player. But John Franklin Myers, I know from the Jets, he's kind of like in every – he's a lot like Zach Allen. He's a good pass rusher. He's a big guy that can play the run. But you've got to be 8 deep. You've got to dress 8 guys on Sunday. And when that first wave isn't in there and that second wave is in there, you can't then have the opposition go to work. You know, the Raiders have beefed up their defense line. Seattle has beefed up theirs. You just look across the league right now, that's where teams are spending the resources, and that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yesterday on the show, we were talking about speed, and Hank was talking how the Broncos lack speed on the defensive side of the ball. And I was saying that by them beefing up their defensive line, I think it's going to allow them to not have to be as fast, and the defensive line will take on a lot more double teams and play bully ball, and the linebackers kind of flow behind him. In your opinion, is that how you kind of see how the Broncos should attack different teams defensively with the quote-unquote lack of speed that they have in the linebacker room and, I guess, the safety room?
Well, I mean, the defense line can cover up a lot of weaknesses. It just can. I mean, you know, you're not going to get as big of holes. Alex Singleton will make a lot of tackles. He always does. They're not, you know, 2 yards at the line of scrimmage. They might be 6 yards down the field, but he'll make a lot of tackles. You know, so you have to sometimes be a little careful about the number of statistics. But, I mean, look, they are not a sideline-to-sideline linebacking core right now. Now, maybe Drew Sanders, I don't think we can hold out hope this year. Maybe there's some miraculous recovery to get him out on there in the field. But I think it's not a strong group right now. It's not a strong group the way, you know, you look at Kansas City's inside linebacking core and just how big and fast they are, starting with Bolton. They lost Willie Gay, but, Drew Tranquill that was a free agent steal that they got last year, and he's a great player. But, not everybody has that type of speed at that position the way the 49ers do. The Eagles didn't have it last year, and it cost them. So you better be able to make up for it in one way or the other, and it can start if your defensive line can flat out just run, take care of the screen game the way they should, recognition, and then, being able to turn their hips, flip it, and chase down, the ball carrier before it gets started. All those kind of things can help a linebacking core that doesn't have elite speed.
Baldy, as Todd just did, and we've asked you a couple of times some more philosophical questions on how to approach football here. I'm going to ask you another one. Do you think it's more important for a young quarterback's development to have a good offensive line or a better offensive line or better playmakers surrounding that young quarterback?
Oh, I would say offensive line. Because the offensive line is, from a protection standpoint, you're going to have an extra tick to find an open receiver if that's what you need. You're just going to take care of certain, free hitters that come because of blitzes, and the recognition of it can really be good. I think, a great offensive line and a young quarterback is a good combination. Look, the receivers, if Sean Payton's job is to get guys open, that's on him. It's not an elite group right now, but there's enough there. We're going to see, what Troy Franklin looks like and how quickly he can assimilate into this offense. I think they're going to need him to be good this year, but I would take a strong offensive line with a young quarterback any day.
I'm curious where you stand on Mike McGlinchey at this point, because he's kind of had a roller coaster over the last few years where he put on a bunch of weight because he was getting pushed around a bit, and then tore his quad because, in part, he put on all that weight, then had to rehab for a season, and then comes to Denver and didn't play great ball. But do you think that there's more coming for him in the future, or is he kind of just what he is at this point?
Look, everybody would like Mike McGlinchey on the roster. Just from a work ethic, just a character, all those kind of things. He's a great kid, but he's limited. He's just limited. Free agency is not the designated hitter. You just can't take a guy out of a great system and plug him in and think he's just going to be a great player. He had some limitations in San Francisco, but because of the talent that they had and the way that they ran the ball and what they asked their line to do, he was a good player in that system. But, they don't run quite the same system in Denver. And so your weaknesses get magnified. And I think they have been magnified. I was surprised they gave him the money that they did. He's capable of being a starter, but I don't think he's a Pro Bowl starter. And I think he can hold down the position. I think against the elite pass rushers, and most of the elite pass rushers in the league right now are over your right tackle. If you're seeing Max Crosby twice a year, that's a handful. I just saw Joey Bosa, working out like he's going to have a bounce back season. You're in that division right now. If Chris Jones lines up out there, I would think that Sean Payton better give that right tackle some help if he decides to line up over your right tackle.
Yeah, it's kind of a strange fit too, like you said, coming from the outside zone type scheme that they run in San Francisco, where you get to use a guy like Mike McGlinchey out in space and let him run and use the athleticism, whereas now you're asking a guy with a very high center of gravity to try to anchor a running game of a lot of power and that sort of thing. That just kind of surprised me. Is there a way to compensate for that a little bit, or is it just going to be a strange fit?
Well, if you look at Sean Payton and his career in New Orleans, they went 7-10, 3 years in a row. And then they struck gold in the 2017 draft. And part of it was Ryan Ramczyk. Ryan Ramczyk came in, and he was a stud. Day one, he was a stud. Lattimore, Kamara. That draft turned that whole franchise around. Then they won the division a bunch of years in a row. But, Ryan Ramczyk, he's had some injuries now, but that guy was an elite player day one. He was a battler. He could handle 3rd and 13. The pass rushers that came in, they locked him up. When you have to help out a tackle, right or left, I think it lessens some of the things that you want to do offensively.
Real quick, I wanted to get your opinion on Sean and his second year with the team. We definitely have talked to players, and it seems like he feels more comfortable. Gave guys the last day of mandatory OTAs off. Joking with the media now. He jokingly said that the first year he had to come in and kind of piss on all the trees, kind of marking his territory. Have you seen a more relaxed Sean Payton? Is this what everybody should expect Sean Payton to be for the rest of his tenure here at the Denver Broncos?
He can be real likable when you're winning a lot of games. He can be what you want. And the players, but he's a bear. He's a bear, when things aren't going well. Now, minicamp, there's no record. Okay, get out of here. I'll see you in 6 weeks. Nothing good happens after midnight. He gave him all the speeches. But he's tough. He's tough on his staff, and he's tough on his players when things aren't going well. And he's tough on himself. Like, he's not going to just throw it at other people. But winning is, that's his bromide to become a more likable Sean Payton.
Baldy, you're always winning when you join us. We really appreciate your insight. Love talking to you, and we'll hopefully catch up next week.
All right, guys. Anytime, man. I'm around. Love to do it.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Baldy. Have a great rest of your day. Man, love our conversations with Baldy there. And, yeah, we're seeing that when Sean is happy, everyone's happy.